another bonus round of Gaming the System. I've got my cheesy game show host voice on, apparently, but that's because we're here today to do a top 8, which is what the kids call what we used to call a top 10 in the olden days. But apparently we're doing a top 8, and today's top 8 is going to be a bit of a confession session for us, which is the unfeminist games that we love to play. So, starting with Matt. Matt, number 1, what is your unfeminist game that you like to play?
Okay, it is, of course, the God of War series. So, from 2005 onwards, up until 2018, they were the most male rage machine, destroy the entire world, just feeling like a monstrous badass. And it's the story of a man who trades his soul for power, and ends up being tricked into killing his wife and child. So that's what drives him for his vengeance in the first game. And that is something that haunts him for his entire life, because the ashes of his wife and child are stuck to his skin, which is why he has this sort of ashen colour. So he's reminded it for his entire life, and the scars of the Chains of Chaos in his hand, so he can never forget his past. And he destroys the entire Greek world, doesn't care who he kills, and it's all because of his emotions and what he wants. And I loved it because I was a very repressed child, and being able to let absolutely everything out, so nothing else matters apart from your anger and what you feel. And I think there are about 12 games of that, and I've played all of them, and it's a joyful experience. But then the joy was compounded in 2018, where they created a brand new one, completely rebuilt it from the ground up with an older Kratos who really feels the weight of what he did, and a stunning growth of the series in a way I could never have imagined. So it's grown into something really, really beautiful and wonderful, and far more. That's hard to describe. Just a growth of the character in a way that I would never have imagined.
Excellent. Number 2, Jem.
I'm going to go with Final Fantasy 15. I really struggled with this challenge, actually, because I don't play a lot of unfeminist games. I don't really like them very much. But yeah, this one I played because I like the Final Fantasy series, and I heard it was one of the good ones, which it is, and it is. It's a fabulous game, and you follow, you play as Noctis, and he's a prince, and he's searching. Well, he's trying to rescue a princess, of course, with his band of 3 friends who
his bros.
Yeah, his bros, and it's very much a sort of road trip. You spend a lot of time driving around in a very cool car that changes with the weather, actually, so it's great. So when it rains, they put the top up, and when it's sunny, they put the top down, and you can drive it, or they can drive it. It's very laddie, and they have these lovely scenes when they sort of rest at night and things. So yeah, no, the game's fun, and the combat is fun, and the storyline's great, and I nearly finished it, which is always a good sign. But you can only play these 4 guys, and we've talked about the women in our sexualization of women chat, so I won't go into that in too much detail, but they are very stereotypical, very tropey characters when the women do tip up. So I think there is a lot of it where I spent my time rolling my eyes and being sort of like, ugh. Yeah, but I still enjoyed the game. So
good.
It was 3. Beautiful, stunning. Yeah.
Sorry, no. But yes, number 3, Alex.
We're talking of bows. My first one I'm going to mention is Broforce, which I don't know if you guys ever have seen it or played it.
I love Broforce.
It's just so much fun. But you play as all these action heroes from like all these different movies like Terminator, so the Brominator, but they're all like with the bro included in the name. There's like Neo from The Matrix, Indiana Jones, Bruce Willis from Die Hard. I forget what's his name, somebody McLean. But yeah, and I think there is one character, Ellen Ripley, who's from Alien, which is the one female character that you can play in it. But it's just really fun. Basically, it's all about shooting everybody and all these aliens and people, and there being loads of explosions, and you have to escape the level. It's like a 2D scroller, I think, and you have to escape the level by helicopter, and then there's a bunch of explosions when you escape on the helicopter, and it's all just very, very much about America and being amazing, and yeah, pretty much sums it up. Explosions would sum it up, pretty much. But yeah,
I really do love Broforce. I'd forgotten about it entirely.
Yes.
So number 4 is me. I'm going to say games I haven't mentioned before, even though I play a lot of unfeminist games. So I'm going to start though with what is probably my all-time favourite game, which is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, which is the absolute best version of GTA. And I will disagree with anybody who tries to make me play the modern ones. I'm sorry, can't be doing with them. San Andreas had the story, it had the wonderful landscapes, it had missions that were just all sorts of variety. One minute, like the way you have to fly a little radio car controlled helicopter to deal with the police, and it was just the best game ever. The problem with all of the Grand Theft Auto games really is their treatment of women. It is appalling. They are seen as completely disposable objects, and various other factors in it. And it does mean that it's very hard for me now to go back and play that game. But I just, at the time, I loved San Andreas so much. My car actually broke down when I was meant to be going to see my family for the weekend. I was meant to be coming back from university, and my car broke down, and I was so happy because it meant that I got to stay home and play San Andreas for the weekend instead of having to see my family, which is a terrible thing. But yeah, absolutely astounding game that doesn't get enough credit for how good a game it was. But yeah, not very feminist. Number 5, Matt.
Okay, so I am going to talk about a game that I have mentioned many times. So it's the Metal Gear Solid series. So I've played 2 of the games. Metal Gear Solid 5 is the one with Quiet, who is the naked sniper woman. And Metal Gear Solid 1, which they still managed to make the woman in it just as sexualized, even though it's in the tiniest, pixelated, of course, from the old PS1 days. There's a woman, a spy in there, who's dressed up as a male soldier, and the way that Snake works out that she's not a male soldier is just because there's a shot of her ass going like that, and he goes, that man's got a fantastic ass. And then, obviously, it's literally just because she's a sexy woman that she plays a role, which is a massive trope where if it was just a fat middle-aged man, then there wouldn't be a story, because it's just all of it revolves around, oh, she's sexy, I'm going to involve her in my plot. Yeah, so it's got Hideo Kojima has quite a checkered past when it comes to women in his games.
It's not good. But I can't. Sorry, I was just think about the times I spent playing Metal Gear Solid on the PS2, so I can't remember which version, what that would have been, and just loved it. He creates stunningly beautiful, massive games. But questionable issues. Right, number 6. I'd lost track of my numbers there. Number 6, Jem. Oh no, Jem, we've lost his sound again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I was going to say Leisure Suit Larry, which I played when I was too young, but when I looked it up, was like, oh, I really shouldn't have been playing this game when I was little, because it wasn't that little, but when I was younger. But that was really sexist, and I am showing my age a lot by the fact that I was playing it, because I was playing it back in the early 90s. So I'm not going to say Legacy now because it's horrible. But I will say Diablo 2, actually, just because of the outfits that you got to that the few female characters that you had were wearing, and it was just it was just so sexist. Yeah, I mean, you did kick ass as in with your assassin or your sorceress, but you had to do it in your underwear and your high boots. And so from so that was a really good game though, and I did spend a lot of time playing it, so I have to put it on the list. It definitely wasn't feminist.
And I like that you kind of cheated there by adding an extra game, but saying you're not saying.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Also, like, showing our age.
Cancelled.
Like, you and me remember Leisure Suit Larry. I'm pretty confident that Matt and Alex have no idea. Go Google that when you're done.
Okay.
Alex, then, number 7.
Okay, so mine's going to be The Witcher 3, which I very much enjoyed. The bits that I have played, have nowhere near got even halfway through it, but very much enjoyed the world that you play in and the main arc of the story. But I put it on the list mainly because women in the game are used, or sex with women in the game is used as a reward for completing missions or like various side quests, and it's seen as a prize for Geralt, really, more than anything else. But it is still a very rich world that you play in, and a very exciting game. Everyone's silent. Have I shocked you?
No,
Witcher is an absolute masterpiece.
And I'm also conscious of the fact that I interrupt you a lot, Alex. I realised that
It's
when
okay.
I was doing the voiceover, so
It's
I'm
all
now
right.
leaving longer pauses when you finish speaking so that I stop doing that.
I
Believe
have
it
to
or not,
say,
it's actually
sorry. I have to say, actually, Alex, that it's interesting because when I played the first time I played Witcher, which was also the last time I played Witcher, I stopped playing it because of that whole undertone, because I was uncomfortable with it, and I was just like, no, I don't need to spend my time on this. Now you have given me cause to potentially pick it back up again, but it does show that it sometimes these scenes put people off more than they turn people on.
I mean,
It
I just
is
like
worth-
playing
kind of
Gwen,
awkward.
but, that's
I mean, the way it was rendered, it looked pretty awkward. Just the whole scenes playing out. You're just like, well, I don't really know where to look now. I'm just gonna look this way instead. But yeah, so it's just on the line between realistic and not realistic, and it's like just a bit awkward, really, when it happens.
Well, we may well end up doing an entire show on The
Yeah.
Witcher at some point, so
Yeah.
it is on our potential list. So I might stop us now before we go on talking about all the things that we'll talk about that. So number 8 is me then. So this game, right? None of you are going to have heard this, but I spend far too much time playing games on Steam and buying games on Steam. And this game is called Do Not Feed the Monkeys. It is a silly little game that you can complete. It's one of those games. It's an independent game. I found it bizarrely addictive. The plot is you are in front of a computer screen, and you need to make sure you have food and money, which you do by going out and doing shitty jobs and buying crappy food. The rest of the time you're at your computer and somebody's sending you links to other people's cameras, and you're watching other people's cameras. And you then have to solve mysteries by watching other cameras. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's not all porn. It's not anything like that. I mean, one of the cameras is set up like in a field, and you're watching the train go past, and you then have to use the internal search engine to find out where the town is and stuff like that. But there is some stuff in this game which is just not acceptable. There is the usual, we're meant to laugh at a character because they dress up in a different gender's clothing in the evening. There are women being, you're not spying on a woman, but you are spying on the peeping Tom who is spying on a woman and stuff like that. And it's one of those games where you're like, do you know what? If this was 10, 20 years ago, it still wouldn't be okay, but I would be less surprised that it exists. But the fact that you've made a good game, you've made a good independent game, you've made a game which has a really nice format, and then you've been lazy enough to leave in the sexism, the homophobia, and all these other little bits that just make it not as good as it could have been. So yeah, I mention it because I think that could have been a really lovely little game. And I mean, I have completed it 3 times, but it's like it should have been better, and I would like to call them out for that.
It's another one of those things where it's like sex is meant to be funny, and sexualizing women it's the joke. We've talked about that at length already, so I'll stop.
That's cool. So that was our first top 8. Yay!
Yay!
I'll edit it together enough.